So today we're going to add some stuff, but first we'll do a trip down memory lane to see if people can remember what these numbers are called. So if you can remember way back to lessons, I don't know, 10 or so, was in the first couple weeks of school. We talked about the number line, we talked about kinds of numbers. Does anybody remember a kind of numbers?
Negatives.
There were negative numbers.
Positive.
There's positive numbers. Who's not in either club?
Zero.
Zero. So we did that. And then we talked about other kinds of groups on the number line. Blank numbers. There were some different groups. We memorized these definitions that were like lists that had dots on them. Does anybody remember any names of categories of numbers on the number line other than negative, positive, zero? One starts with a C. There's another one that starts with a W. There's another one that started with an N. Anybody remember any of those names of number groups? Drawing a blank. I know, I'm all the way back in September. It's tough. Memories. We did prime and composite. That's not what I'm hunting for, but that is a club of numbers. I agree with that. We're close to the right page.
Whole.
There were whole numbers. Does anybody remember what the whole numbers were?
1, 2, 3, 4, dot.
That's a different list as the 1, 2, 3, 4, dot, dot, dot. Anybody remember wholes?
Was it like negative 1, 0, 1?
That's a different group.
0, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, wholes were
Dot, dot,
0, 1, 2, count forever. That's not the word we're hunting for today, but that's in the right family of information. Anybody have more memory in the zone now?
Or negative?
We did that already. Negative, positive, zero were different clubs, but there's two other groups I'm hunting.
Natural?
Natural numbers. Natural numbers is that 1, 2, 3, 4, dot, dot, dot group that we just said a second ago. There's a synonym name for that title. Natural numbers are sometimes called some other kind of numbers. Counting numbers. So counting numbers, natural numbers, that's like our 1, 2, 3, 4s. The main word I'm hunting for, and just trying to build up to it, we're getting there, is if I do all of the numbers that are marked on the number line, all the negatives, all the positives, zeros, no decimals, no fractions, just the numbers that I have marked. We used to make a list like this for work. You used to make that list on a quiz a long, long time ago in September. Does anybody remember what that category was called? Because that's what we're adding today. It starts with an I.
Integers.
Integers is correct. So, can anybody spell integers? I'll spot you the int.
INTERGERS.
Missed by one letter. That's very close.
INTEGERS.
Yeah. There's not an R in the middle of that. The R comes at the very end. Integers. So we're looking to add integers today. I'm sure you've done this before. Not this year, but you've probably added integers. I'm going to give you 3 rules eventually. Tomorrow we'll take a quiz where I'll ask you for the 3 rules. And the quiz will also have some problems on it. I think it's a 7-point quiz because I'm hunting the 3 rules and then we'll do some math to it. Does anybody know a rule that we can use for adding integers, or does anybody want to take on any of these 4 questions and we'll talk about them in just a second? Anybody have a theory on what we get adding any of those, or know a
The
rule?
first one 4.
The first one is 4. I'd agree with that. Anybody either with another answer or explain a rule about how we're doing this?
Like, for that one, he went from like -2 and just -1, 0, up to 4.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's one way we could explain this is with the number line, and this will be going off camera, but life goes on. If we want to show -2 adding +6, I could start at -2, and then if you add a positive, which way is it going to go?
That way.
To the right. So I could go over to the right 6 spaces, we'd land on 4. What if we added a negative? You go left. You could use the number line, that's true. I agree 100% with that. If that helps you understand, great. We can use that as a way to like assess our knowledge. But there'd be a quicker way to do it. I don't think we want to carry around a number line with us everywhere we go. And if I decided to add 687, I don't know that we'd have the patience to count 687 spaces on a number line. Anybody else have an opinion on anything about this? Yeah.
Would the second one be -8?
The second one is -8. I agree with that.
For that thing you said there's a quicker way to do it. For the -2 plus 6, could you just subtract 6 minus 2?
Yeah, that is what happened here is we subtracted them. But we can't get too carried away with subtracting all the time, because what did we do this time?
Add.
We added. So there's a little bit of adding going on, there's a little bit of subtracting going on. Those are good observations. Anybody have another opinion on
The
something?
third one -4?
The third one is -4. I agree with that. So that's another one where we ended up pretty much subtracting them. Anybody have thought?
8.
The last one is 8. That's another one where we pretty much ended up adding them. So can anybody figure out some rules here? When would you know to add? When would you know to subtract? How do you know what to do?
When the first one's negative and the second one's addition, positive, subtract.
Which one do you mean?
Subtract.
Subtract, okay.
But whenever the first one's adding and the second, positive and the second one's negative, we would subtract.
That's true.
But then, if they're both the same, we would just add it.
That's also true.
Same.
So there's 3 different problem types you could have here. You could have a positive trying to add a positive. Sometimes you have positives adding positives. Out of 1, 2, 3, or 4, which one has a positive adding a positive? Number 4. Anytime you add a positive with another positive, what kind of answer would you always have to get? Positive. And when they're all the same like that, are we adding or are we subtracting? When we took a positive plus a positive, we added. So anytime you do a positive adding a positive, guaranteed you'll get a positive, we're looking to add those together. That's the kind of adding you started to do in probably kindergarten. If I want to go through these problems, you don't have to write which symbol for which number type if you don't want to. Positives. You don't have to write positive signs. So if I went back to this question and I erased the positive signs, that really hasn't changed anything. The parentheses are just here as spacers. If I erase these parentheses, that's not really changing anything. If you have a positive plus a positive, you basically have a kindergarten, first grade kind of math problem. Okay? This is, it looks harder, but it's as simple as 2 plus 6 makes 8 that we've been doing forever. Positives plus positives, just make positives, you just add them, there's nothing complicated about that. If we count down here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., which one of these is like kindergarten to first grade-ish kind of math?
The third one.
The third one. This is a positive plus a positive, that's just going to be like third grade-y kind of stuff. Where do we have another, how many more till we hit another like first grade kind of problem?
3 plus
3, yeah, 3 more. So 1, 2, 3, that's just like kindergarten-y kind of stuff. That's just 3 plus 3. It's all disguised with the parentheses and all these positive signs, but don't let that like affect your psychology. If you have a positive plus a positive, just make a positive, just add the numbers together. What's another sort of category we might find? Other than positives could add positives. Who else could be adding who else?
Negatives and positives.
Negatives could add negatives. Where did we add a negative and a negative? 2. When we added a negative plus a negative, we got a
8,
negative. And then we add or subtract.
add,
We add it. Another way I can explain this is, if the signs are the same, keep it and add. Okay, so if they're both positives, stay positive, add. If they're both negatives, stay negative, add. What's our only other choice then? If we're all covered for when they're the same,
negative plus, positive.
if they're different, we're gonna look not to add, but to
Subtract.
subtract. And then how do you know whether it turns out a positive result or a negative result?
Depends on which one's first.
It doesn't matter who's first or second, no. It does depend though. Depends on something. What's it depend on?
Which number's bigger?
Which number's bigger? So these were different. This one turned out positive because the positive number was bigger. Here they were different. That turned out negative because the negative number was bigger. Sometimes people will explain this in terms of like armies or something. You know, if the -2 army meets up against their enemy, the positive army that has 6 soldiers. You know, if 6 soldiers have an encounter with 2 soldiers, you'd expect the positives would win because there's more of them, and they'd probably win by 4. You know, if the negatives bump into the negatives, they're not going to fight. They're on the same army, they're on the same team, they're on the same whatever. They just gang up. Now there's negative, now there's 8 of them in the group traveling wherever they're traveling. You know, if +2 meets up with -6, they're going to fight. The negatives are going to win by 4. But if the positives bump into the positives, great. They're going to have a friendly picnic or something. Now there's 8 people that are all in the group hanging out together. Okay? If that helps you understand, great. If that didn't, oh well. But if you memorize these rules, the rules will never let you down. 2 positives will always make a positive, add them. 2 negatives always makes a negative, add them. If they're different, now you got to think for a second. It depends on who's the bigger number, the negative or the positive, and we want to subtract them. Question about the idea? So tomorrow, again, we'll take a quiz. It'll be the 3 rules. Make sure you say the add, subtract part of it. Make sure you say depends on the bigger one part of it. You don't have to write out the whole word negative or positive. N's and P's are good enough for me. And then it'll have a couple problems. About that part of the world. Another thing that I should probably say is if I step over here to these columns of problems, if you can turn me a little bit because I'm just going to run out of space. Am I all good now? Some of this punctuation doesn't matter. What did I already say once that I could erase if I wanted to? The parentheses. Okay, the parentheses are just there to space things. So whether I take these parentheses off or put these parentheses on, it doesn't mean anything. So if I want to go through and erase some parentheses here, or if I want to add some parentheses there, I'm not really changing anything in the problem but the way it looks. So don't let the parentheses bother you. What's another thing that I could either put on or take off, and it really doesn't matter?
With the, like, positive plus positive, we'll just take the pluses off.
The positive signs. So I don't really need some positive signs on some of these numbers. So if I want to go through and take off some positive signs, I could take off any positive signs that I want to take off. I could also add on any positive signs that I want to add on. It doesn't really matter if the positive signs and the parentheses are there. The book will write the questions different ways. Homework, my worksheets, we'll all write them different ways. Don't let that bother you. The parentheses don't matter. The positive signs don't matter. They're just there. Sometimes they're there to just kind of space it. It looks weird if there's 2 signs like right next to each other sometimes, so the parentheses help space it. Question about that little tidbit? We're going to try to make a couple laps around the room. I have a bunch of problems to choose from. I'm not going to write the answers down. What I'd encourage you to do is, in your mind, take everyone's turn. So we'll start here for Christian in a second. But don't get your daydream on until it's your turn. Try to think along with him and think, yep, 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 or uh-oh, I'm getting different answers. If you're getting different answers, we could talk about it. But mentally, take everybody's turn, even if it's not actually your turn. So, what do you think?
7.
No, we've got a negative and a positive. So when we do a negative and a positive, it's this rule that it'll depend on who's bigger for whether it's negative or positive. But you have to subtract the numbers. So what do you think about that? First, is it going to be positive or negative? Who's the bigger? Is the negative number bigger or the positive number bigger?
Positive.
Positive's bigger, so it's positive. Then subtract the values of those numbers. Subtract 4 and 3,
1.
it's 1. So it'll be positive 1 on that. What do you think?
Negative 7.
Negative 7 is true. A negative adds a negative, we'll get a negative, and we're going to add them together.
7.
That is 7, positive 7. It is negative 1. Disagree? Are we trying to add them or subtract them? No, because they're different. This is positive, this is negative. If we get one negative and one positive adding, that's going to depend on whoever's bigger, but we have to subtract the numbers. So what do you think if you subtract those numbers, what's going to happen? It'll be a 0. We're going to get 0 on that one.
Is there a negative sign?
There's no negative signs. This was a positive sign and I erased it because I don't need to write it.
Is that negative sign like above? It's kind of like a Z.
No, this is a positive sign on this 3. This is an adding symbol. This doesn't have a sign, which means it's positive.
It's just 6.
It is just 6.
Negative.
This is negative 6.
0.
That is another 0.
Negative 2.
It's going to be positive 2. Why positive 2?
Because 7 is bigger.
Because 7 was positive and 7 was bigger.
Negative 12.
Negative 12 is good. 12 is good. Flipping back to the front. What do you think here? Let's decide on the type. This number is what type?
Positive.
Positive. This number is
Negative.
negative. So we'll go to this rule. When they're different, whether it's negative or positive depends on the bigger number, but we're going to subtract those numbers.
Negative 12.
It is negative, but subtract the numbers. Negative because this was the bigger one. Subtract.
Negative 2.
Negative 2. It's like if the 5 positive guys in the one army met up with the 7 negative guys in the other army, they'd fight it out. The negatives would win by 2.
0.
That is a 0.
Negative 8.
That is a negative 8. That is a regular old positive 8.
Negative 8.
No. This one's positive,
Oh, that's a positive.
and that one's negative.
0.
It is 0. You keep setting the seat where 0 keeps just falling your way every time.
Now it is 1.
It is a 1. It is negative 7. That is 7.
Negative 1.
That is negative 1. That is 0.
6.
That is 6. Back to the front. This is a different type than you had the other 2 times.
Negative 6.
It is negative 6. Yeah, it's got a negative, adding a negative, so we're in this world now. Negatives add negatives, they make negatives, we add them together. You like that one better?
0.
That is a 0.
2.
That's a 2.
Negative 12.
Negative 12.
What are the things?
That's a positive with the 5, that's a positive with the 7, and everything today is adding. We're going to subtract tomorrow, it'll be a different kind of category.
12.
It is 12.
That is 2. Negative
It is negative 2.
0.
It is 0.
2. Negative 8.
That is negative 8.
8.
That is an 8.
0.
That is a 0.
1.
That is a 1. same type as what you had last time.
-7.
It is a -7.
Seven.
That's a 7.
-1.
That is a -1.
0.
That's a 0.
6.
That's a 6.
That is a -6.
That is a -6.
0.
That is a 0.
2.
That is a 2.
-1.
That is a -12. That is a 12.
-2.
That is a -2. This is the type that got you the first times, because that's a positive versus a negative.
-8.
It is, we need to subtract when they're different like that.
0.
That's a 0. Yeah, anytime they're different, you gotta look to subtract. Good?
Um. 0.
No, negative adds a negative. That's gonna be this rule. When a negative adds a negative, we get a negative, we have to add them together.
-8.
-8.
8.
8's good.
0.
0's good. 1's good.
-7.
-7.
7.
Not a, yeah, 7, that's right. I doubted you, but you were right.
-1.
-1, yep.
0.
0's good.
6.
6 is good. -6 is good. Back to the front.
0.
That's 0. I think we're getting it now, yep.
2.
That is a 2.
-12.
Yes,
12.
yes. Close. Yeah, why is it negative?
Because of negative.
The negative number was bigger, yeah.
0.
Yep.
-1.
Negative what?
8.
-8, yep.
8.
Yep,
0.
yep,
1.
yep.
Negative. No, -7.
Which one?
-7.
I agree. Back to the front.
7.
Agreed?
-1.
Agreed? Agreed?
6.
Agreed.
What were you saying?
This is a -3, and that's another -3.
Oh, -6.
It is -6. We aren't gonna do this all day. If we can make one more clean lap, we'll call it quits. I usually work till we make a double lap without anybody making a mistake. So we just made one clean lap. If we can make another clean lap, then we'll move on.
0.
No.
Oh, wait. I thought that was his.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry, that was his. We are up one.
0.
Is that the one you meant?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me make you do one more just to make sure we're still, like, clean and not controversial. What do you think for that?
That is 2.
That is 2. I agree. -12 is true?
12.
12 is true?
Just 2.
Oh. Why is it -2?
Oh, that's a negative.
Yeah.
Oh,
Why is it -2?
because the negative.
The negative was the bigger one.
0.
0 is good.
-8.
-8.
8.
8's true.
I'm good. 0.
0 is true.
1.
1 is true.
-7.
-7 is true.
7.
7 is true. You?
Tries or not?
Yeah, I noticed that.
-1.
-1 is true.
Yeah.
0 is true.
Oh, 6.
6 is true. You haven't missed one yet. You've got this today, huh?
0.
Not a 0. That's a negative, then there's another negative. So if they're both negatives, we've got to get a negative, we've got to add them. It is -6.
0.
That is 0.
2.
That is 2.
Negative 12.
Negative 12.
12.
12.
Negative 2.
Negative 2.
0.
0. Negative 8.
8.
8. Well,
0.
0. Now we'll see if I jinxed you.
1.
It is, you got it. I didn't give you bad luck. You still
We're
got
so
it.
close.
Negative 7.
Negative 7's true.
7.
True.
1.
Oh, that's all right. What do you, second opinion?
Oh.
Negative 1. Why is it negative?
Because the negative 4.
The negative 4 was the bigger one.
What am I?
Back in the front. Almost everybody's missed one, Sue, so don't get frustrated with each
Yeah.
other. There's very few perfect people right now.
0.
That is 0.
6.
It is.
Negative 6.
It is.
0.
It is. Disagree. It's a negative, then that's a positive. When they're different, you have to agree. So if we subtract those, 2.
This really, I just need to put one thing out. You might need to color in the minuses.
I don't want to.
Alright, that's great. Negative 12.
Negative 12. 12 is true.
Negative 2.
Negative 2 is true.
0.
0 is true.
Negative 8.
Negative 8 is true. 8 is true.
0.
0 is true.
Oh, dang.
Pressure
Okay.
builds as we go,
I'm
too,
getting
huh?
worried.
It's like in basketball when we do the layups till someone misses.
1.
It is 1.
Yes.
Negative 7.
It is negative 7.
7.
It is 7.
1.
Not quite.
Good. Hey,
Why is it negative?
it's good. It's good.
Because the negative is
No, it's okay, man. No, you say no.
We're good. If we do perfect people, I think we only have, I think you're good so far? I think you so far? Did you miss any early? I think.
I think early.
I think early. I don't think you have yet, have you? You're perfect? You're definitely perfect.
Oh.
Did you miss anything early?
I don't think so.
Okay, so there's maybe like 5 perfect people out there. I lost track of where we were, but it doesn't really matter. Are we we're to your turn, right? Let's just go back to it. Where were we?
I thought we were at this increase.
No, I think we just had a mistake
Yeah, we're
there,
still
so we'll go here.
That is...
It doesn't matter, they're all the same. I like to do a bunch of loops just because you get a lot of different types if we just keep looping, but that is a 1.
Negative 1.
Now I jinxed you by saying you were perfect.
7.
We've got a negative adding another negative. So when they're both negative, make a negative, but add them. What do you think?
Negative 7.
I agree with negative 7.
7.
That is a 7, so you're in the perfect club still.
Negative 1.
Negative 1 is true.
0.
0 is true. 6 is true.
0.
0 is true.
6.
No.
Bro, come on! Negative 6.
No. When there's a negative versus a positive, you have to subtract. So that's going to be
0.
agree.
Negative
I disagree with negative
2. 2.
2. It is positive 2. Why positive 2?
Because 7 is bigger.
Because the 7's bigger. So our perfect crew is shrinking. That is negative 12. That's a positive with the 5. That's a positive with the 7. That is a 12.
Negative 2.
It is negative 2. That is 0.
Negative 8.
It is negative 8.
8.
It is 8.
0.
It is a 0.
1.
It is a 1.
Negative 7.
It is a negative 7.
7.
It is a 7. That's 1 lap. We've done 1 lap a lot of times. It's the hard is getting that second lap in. We've done 1 lap a million times. It is negative 1.
0.
It is 0.
Come on.
It is 6.
Yes.
Negative 6.
It is negative 6. It is 0.
Just 2.
It is just regular old 2.
-12.
It is negative 12.
Yes. 12.
It is 12.
-2.
It is negative 2.
0.
It is 0.
Little man.
On to the last one.
Alright. Oh, shh, let me focus. Alright. I can't get it. Negative 8.
It is negative.
Let's go! Let's go, 80!
So, where we're at, there's a set QQ. There's about 10 minutes left. You can probably get set QQ done. There's no letters. It's just set QQ. There's 25 of these. So, if somebody could cut the record, I've got someone waiting at my door for me.
Cut the record.
They're the same.
Let's go, Cheswick!
We